The ending of 8th grade is approaching, and everything is going great. I am hosting the talent show in 2 days, and I graduate in 3. It's Sunday night. Me and my family are in our rooms watching TV. A man comes to our door, and my mom starts talking to him. She immediately starts crying. She grabs her keys and drives away, not telling us a word. The next morning, I attend school, and the close friend comes up and says, "I'm sorry about what happened." I was confused, but I didn't think nothing of it, so I just continued my day.
From the first time humans painted images on cave walls, storytelling has connected people, provided hope, and given meaning to countless individuals, cultures, and religions. Storyographers, a popular education collective, has made a commitment to capture authentic alternative narratives through its culturally sensitive and rites-based storytelling process. Let's welcome Seedlin, the founder of Storyographers, and its lead listener. We also welcome Marquez Ryan, Storyographers' lead facilitator. I am so excited to hear more about this. Tell me what led to the beginning of Storyographers.
I suspect that story is really the place where we begin. It's when we first meet. Stephen and I become friends back in 2003, and we begin to create stories together through playwriting. And then from playwriting as independent writers, then we go to the Carpetbag Theater, which is an historically Black African-American theater company in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Oh, all right.
And there we learn about the story circle methodology. And the story circle methodology is core to our work as storyographers. It came out of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee's process of telling stories all across the southern region of the United States through the Free Southern Theater. And so from this lineage of African-American theater and storytelling and justice and equity, we are being raised as listeners as much as storytellers. And we return the stories that we hear back to the communities with integrity. So that's kind of the lineage from whence we spring. It was about, I think, 2004 that that same theater began to do research on its history and collect all of these oral narratives and video and archive all of these stories. And that's what Seed was doing back then, was archiving these stories. And we began to put the stories on in a digital format. And from that digital format began to perform with them. And then we began to go out into the community and collect even more stories. And so that's the kind of impetus for that, for the storyographers. It's strategically using this art and using culture as a means to shift policies and practices and be in right relationship with the communities within which we are working.
Okay, and taking storytelling into 2015 with different media and...
Oh, yes.
So tell us how we came to Chicago, Marquez.
It was probably, I think, 4 years ago to this actual month that I came to Chicago on a contract with the Center for Digital Storytelling. And I was working with the section for family planning and contraceptive research at the University of Chicago. We did a job with them, and it went really, really well. It went so well that I got offered a job. So it's really interesting because at the time, I think myself and Marquez, we were really looking for community, but not just geographic community, a community of place, but also looking for a community of spirit. We talk about community in 2 ways. We talk about community as a place of belonging, but also as a place of becoming. And I think we've gotten to certain places in our own practice and our own development and just our own human evolution where we felt a little stagnant. When you kind of had a vision of yourself, but you don't feel that you're accelerating, towards that vision at the right rate or fast enough. So I think part of that, and this is very core to our relationship, is being around those people who are trying to get to that same place, both figuratively and literally. Which is ironic that we now find that we are literal neighbors.
Okay,
we've been kindred.
Yeah.
We've been kindred for a very, very long time, despite which communities we've lived in. So coming to this Chicago community is definitely been a part of that journey of trying to find where is that place where we can evolve, where we can grow. And it's been a really interesting story too. I've found that as a transplant, when you come to a city, you attract and you find all the other people who ended up coming to that city looking for that same kind of hope. No one ever packed up everything and moved saying, I'm not looking for the better life.
Right.
So, to find a lot, we're a popular education media collective, so we're finding these media makers, we're finding educators and popular educators, we're finding people in the faith community, ministers, we're finding folks who have various different mediums within the arts, and
these are the people that comprise.
Yeah, we're all really interested either using story and narrative in their work or thinking about the possibility of integrating it more deeply into their work.
Okay.
So that level of belonging and becoming is kind of congealed into this collective, and we're creating those spaces not just for the communities that we're serving, but we're a resource and a community for one another. That's what I really think is our Chicago story, us finding the practitioners, finding one another.
Well, I'm glad that's been happening. Now tell me, I have this quote, where listening happens, the story will find itself. What does that mean to the Storyographers?
Oh yeah, I love that quote. So you have to excuse me, I'm full of fortune cookie wisdom. But I think I came up with that one because I think I had been hearing so much about voice, and especially youth voice, and not to take anything away from that, but I think there are some assumptions there that I wanted to counter, and one is that somehow youth are not vocal, that they're not vocalizing their lived experience. We are always, not just youth, we are always embodying, vocalizing, expressing literally or figuratively what our realities are. The question is, or the reason that we tend to get labeled or tagged as the voiceless is because who's there to receive that expression?
The listeners.
Yeah, where are the listeners? Who's listening? And the people who are listening, where is their agency to affect change?
Yes.
So it's really about developing audience, and that tends to be this gap that's never really addressed when we're talking about cultivating voices, representing, amplifying voices within communities, and especially within marginalized communities. So what we're saying is that if we do anything, if we're looking back and telling our story 40, 50 years from now, God bless us with that long life, that we'll say we did something for listening. We'll say we did something to create audiences. We help people to listen better to the realities that people have been calling into expression and into being since the beginning of time.
I could talk about this forever. Thank you, Seed and Marquez, for being here today and for sharing your gifts and your story. I'm Polly Toner for Different Drummers and the Greater Chicago Broadcast Ministries. Keep the faith.
The day goes on and I attend rehearsal for the talent show as usual until I get called down to the office. When I get there, everyone is comforting my mother while she cries. I'm confused. Why is she crying? We get in the car with my little brother crying in the back seat. The tension in the car is very high. My mom starts the car and drives. I repeatedly ask, "What's going on?" And she continues to cry and drive, trying to stay calm. "Have you talked to Dad today?" She pulls over and looks at me. My heart is pounding as she finally opens her mouth and says, "I have something to tell you. Your father has passed away. He was shot and his body was found yesterday evening.